All right, we're taking the topic of gender-based violence further, and to take this discussion further, we're now joined here in studio by Phinah Kodisang, who is the CEO of the Soul City Institute. A very good afternoon to you, Phinah. Thanks so very much for joining us here on SABC News.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me.
You're most welcome. Let's start with, I suppose, the kind of work that Soul City does when it comes to issues related to gender-based violence. And I wonder, as we're saying, that if you're able to assist those people that are victims or potentially victims. I think one of the biggest issues always for people: where do we start? Where do I go? Who do I turn to?
Yeah. So Soul City Institute identifies as a feminist and an intersectional feminist organization, and for obvious reasons. We live in a very patriarchal society, where women's rights are not recognized. Though they exist on paper, we don't really feel that those rights are recognized and actually given, women given a platform to enjoy the freedoms, right? So at Soul City, we do a lot of awareness creation around what gender-based violence is, what, consent is, because we found that there's confusion. When you are, especially in relationships, if we agree to kissing, and I say, yes, we can kiss, people take it all the way up to penetration without actually checking if I'm okay with it. And you find a lot of women saying, but I said no. And the person saying, but you confused me because when I kissed you, you agreed. So identifying and teaching people what consent is part of the work that we do, but mainly creating awareness around GBV, where to find assistance if you are a rape victim, and also resources that are available in different communities. So on our websites, even on our social medias, we issue a lot of information to create just awareness, because we realize that people don't really know. Some women are raped without recognizing that this is rape.
When you talk about the issue of awareness, I often find, with some campaigns that, they're targeted at women. And I always wonder, what is the point with that? Is there male participation? Is there participation from men who are generally the aggressors of gender-based violence? Because, if you're speaking to women, that's essentially, preaching to the choir. So, is there active participation from men? Are they looking, you mentioned your website, for example. Do you know whether or not they are participating and looking at your website and actually actively participating in these causes?
But there is a need to create awareness also among women. Like I said, they might not know that what has happened to them is a violation. So, using a framework, a human rights framework, is important in educating women, right? So that they are empowered and they know what to expect even when they go to a police station, what to expect if their case is not taken forward. Then we are able to assist with advocacy work. We issue a lot of media statements if we see that the issue, those people that must be held accountable are not taking the issue seriously. We are part of many movements, the call to action, where civil society come together and they look at the gaps and ways to address those gaps. So there is a need to educate women, but when we come to men, we also educate them, because if I don't know as a man that if I just force myself, because this is my wife, for me, because it's my wife, I can just do whatever that I want, that in actual fact, you are breaking the law, you are raping even within marriage. So we find that men, when we give them this information, say, but I didn't realize, I thought, because this is my girlfriend, consent is given forever.
We always, there's always a story that, causes us great distress or something that outrages us. At the moment, I know we're talking quite a lot about Hillary Gadi and the clip that we just played a moment ago, Tshegofatso Pule. And in that case, all right, we've got a conviction there. You've released a statement on the issue of Hillary Gadi, but as a start, I'd like you to tell us what you said in that statement and what your thoughts are. But the second part of my question is really around how do we get to a place where we don't have a story that outrages us, that's in the news, that Flo Letwa was talking about on the news, and then we're outraged for a month, we're outraged for 2 months, the case is in court, then we're outraged again, and then it's over, and then there's another case that comes through. I spoke about this I think a month or two ago when we were talking about gender-based violence, that there's always something that outrages us, and here we go, now we have another case that we're outraged about again. So I wonder how do we start in terms of making sure that we get to a place where we're not, it's not it's not something that they're seeing and I think that's actually where we are.
So the statement we issued spoke exactly to that issue, that this was a harsh reminder that we actually live in a country where women can be abducted, and surely when they are abducted, you know that when they find them, they'll find them as a body, you know, and we were reminding ourselves and the whole of South Africa that we should not be desensitized. We should always have GBV top of mind. Prevention should be the order of the day. We should not react and wait for something to happen, you know, and that's what we do. When something, if it goes quiet for a month, we forget, we move on to other things, you know. So Hilary's case was just a harsh reminder of the reality of many young women in South Africa, because if you look at the trend, from your Karabo Mokwena's, Tshegofatso Pule's, we're talking about young women at the prime of their lives, you know, 28, 30, 19-year-olds. So there is a war that is launched on women and young women.
And what is the root cause of it? You know, I always say, you know, when there is a problem, you're seeing the problem, and this is what we're talking about now. But when there is a problem, there's obviously a root, there's a root cause to that problem. What makes a grown man, and as you rightly say, these are young women in the prime of their lives, what makes a grown man decide that this person has to die? I mean, we know in the Tshegofatso Pule situation, he had, you know, we understand it was because she was pregnant and he was married and so forth. But what is the root cause of this gender-based violence that we are really, as you say, it's a war on women? Why must we experience this?
And we need to really interrogate that. We need, you know, I hope that we will find resources to actually delve deep into what is the cause. You know, we all went through trauma through apartheid. I don't buy the story that men during apartheid were treated badly and this is their outlet, this is how they deal with that trauma of the past. All of us were traumatized, you know. But if you look at the profile again of the men that are committing these crimes, if we take Shoba, he's successful, he has a career. If you look at the guy who killed Karabo, so there is, you know, something, there is a pattern. Even the ones that are now on trial, or the ones that were on Monday in court for Hilary's case, you know, it's prominent people who are in organizations working even in the high offices of the ANC. So you wonder whether there is something that we are missing in how we deal with the perpetrators, and I think we really need to look
what sort of
that.
research would be required for something like this? And you know, the pattern that you speak to, I mean, I watch a lot of crime documentaries. This is a similar pattern even overseas, and you know, one needs to think about what resources need to be put into, you know, discovering or finding out what exactly is causing and what is the root cause of these problems.
I think one also the mental state of men in South Africa, because the crime they commit is gruesome, to the point where somebody chops somebody's body up and puts it in a suitcase. Something upstairs is not okay. So we need to look at the mental state of men, and I think this notion that it's a monster from somewhere is something we must also dispel, right? Because these are the people we live with. These are the people, like I say, career men that you could easily fall in love with when he comes to you and approaches you, you know. So this thing of calling them monsters also makes it a scapegoat for men to hide behind these demonic acts.
But also hiding, is it also, when you talk about mental capacity, are we not giving them an excuse by saying there's something that's not right? I mean, when we're questioning, you know, their mental capabilities, is that also not a scapegoat to say, well, that person wasn't okay upstairs?
Not to make them escape or hide behind, but I think there is something we need to look at, because mental health is a big issue. You know, if they are not abusing women, they are killing themselves. So there is something that we really need to look at, you know, and also how society, through its patriarchal systems and norms, has these expectations of this is what a man should be, this is what a woman should be, when they can't meet that standard that is created for them. You know, some of them find an outlet where they can exercise this thing, you know, and like if you can't prove your manhood in other ways, violence becomes a natural way where men want to prove their manhood. And we really need to actually deal with it decisively. And I think, you know, we speak a lot about how to prevent GBV. And you can't prevent it just by talking to women, because they don't rape themselves, they don't kill themselves. You know, we need to really deal with the perpetrators, and I don't think we have actually invested a lot with dealing with that element of GBV.
Phinah, I could go on with this topic. I wish we had an hour to talk. Thank you so very much for giving us your time. We really do appreciate it, and certainly the work that you are doing at Soul City. Thank you so much. That is Phinah Kodisang, who's the CEO of the Soul City Institute.